All right, cool. Welcome everyone back. It's been a minute, actually, ladies and germs. I'm back here again at the table with two of my besties here. We got Sean Anthony and we got Mr. Graven Ravenwolf.
Yo.
Since we're dealing with what I like to call the Cooties 19 virus that is out and about right now, we're all stuck inside basically for the most part. Some of us more than others, unfortunately. But anyway, we just figured we'd get this back up and rolling. And then, like I said, it's been a minute, so we're gonna get into some things that are going on in the world today as far as the nerd geekdom is going on, pop culture. I know one of the things that again, talking about the dreaded C-19, the COVID-19 virus is changing a lot of things, and as far as our landscape is concerned. The way we do things, and one of those things, the biggest thing right now is, the movies, the box office. The way we see movies, the way we watch our entertainment, I guess. I think that's the biggest thing that's being, thrown up in question right now. So, one of the things that I came across recently was the fact that DreamWorks and Universal have basically sent one of their newest, biggest movies, The Trolls, which I didn't even know this movie was coming out, to be honest with you. I didn't even know anything about it. Yeah, I had no clue this movie existed, to be honest. But supposedly the Trolls World Tour is coming out, and it's supposed to be a big thing in the movie theater, and now they're pushing it to VOD, when basically what the article says is that every other big movie studio has partnerships with their respected theater chains, and they've all basically made promises that they were going to move their movies back until after this pandemic was done. And Universal did the same thing, except for the Trolls movies. The one movie that they decided, we're just going to go ahead and throw this on VOD and see what it does. And so now movie theaters or movie theater chains are up in arms. Another thing I didn't know is the National, what's it called? The National Association of Theater Owners, the NATO. I didn't know we had two NATOs. Yeah, NATO basically is pissed off because of Universal's basic move to do this. But when you read the article, which I think is very interesting, it talks to you about the fact that the reason why Universal is doing this is to test the waters, and it makes complete sense. Like, they've never had a chance to do something like this before, test the waters in an open situation, and this is a perfect opportunity for them, so they're taking their chance to see what happens. And if this goes well, if it does good numbers, and like me and Sean talked about earlier, if this does good numbers and they can cut the middleman out, which is the theater chain, who's to say they won't going forward? So how does that change, our world basically? Is it the end of the movie going experience? I don't know. I think that's a huge thing, man. Changes a lot. For me, going to movies is a huge thing. So now, is that gone?
I don't know. I don't think it's there's a lot of variables to that whole situation. If handled a certain way, you can start seeing theaters become. Are we at the apex where we start considering theaters like drive-in movie theaters now? Where we at that point where drive-in movie theaters became a thing of the past, even though it's having a resurgence in certain areas?
Yeah.
Or is it starting to? Is the pulse on the theater change now that they're starting to fade? Because of cost inflation, people being able to go out, how much it costs to afford to go to the theater right now, on top of ease of use and access to being able to get movies at home, video on demand, things like that. I think on top of it, I think theaters are just scared. They're running scared right now, and as they should be, because people like me and you and Sean, I'm sure, we love going to the movies and just having the experience. At least I can say that. But for a lot of people, even the younger generation, not into that anymore. It's whatever's on the go, whatever they can get immediately, whatever's available to them. And we're being trained by places like Netflix where we can just binge everything really quickly, or watch a movie really quickly that just comes straight to Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's part of all of it to take in right now and see where it's going.
Yeah.
I think one of the questions that's been lingering with me is, was this a betrayal by Universal to its theater chains, or are they being pioneers in this regard, right? Are they setting a new trend, just like how Netflix set the trend and slowly but surely Blockbuster was admonished, right? Do they owe it to themselves to try this out? Now we could make a lot of jokes on whether Trolls was the movie to try it out with or not. I think that's laughable at best. Mm-hmm. Speaking of the article, I thought the article was poorly written.
Of course.
But it did. I mean, there were some things in there that was just questionable at best. But it did raise a bigger question, and I think Raven brought it up just now too, which is, what does this say about the trends in our society then? If we're gonna just forego the movie watching experience, like jumping in a car, going to the theater, going to the concession stand, which, by the way, that's how these movie theaters make the majority of their money anyway, the concession stand, right? Yeah. It's not really necessarily the film itself, but going to the theater and watching films, how integrated is that in American life? Or is that something that could just be discarded based upon, these new events?
Yeah.
I think it's evolving to a point where it can be discarded, unfortunately. I think there's too many factors there's too many cons against theaters right now. They have been for a while, based on many social factors, not just financially, but based on just people. And of course, unfortunately, I have to say it, based on what's going on currently with the COVID-19, people are going to be changed mentally through all this process on how they socially interact with people. So I think that going forward, that can also have an eventual impact on how people actually go to a theater too. Social gatherings. This is training people to have a certain mentality, even if this, hopefully this does get cleared up and we're able to move on with our lives and what have you. So there's going to be a microscope on that as well. I think it's also going to affect theaters, on top of just what this all is doing at the moment, to say the least. So.
Well, I read some of the comments after the actual article, right? And I want to ask you two this is probably you guys would definitely know more than I would, but I don't think it's just necessarily the technical trend, right? Like in terms of instant gratification and the gig economy and all that stuff. I read some comments where people were kind of bitter about theaters, like, oh, they deserve this, they've been overcharging us for years. Like what? So I guess my question is, what are the ways that these theaters have abused their power or their leverage in the past? Do they deserve this? Have they been overcharging because they're the only game in town?
Yeah. I mean, that's a really good question. I think I agree. I think a lot of people feel that movies are super inflated. I mean, it's funny because if you think about it, we've talked about this in other situations. You talk about the inflation situation, like the rate of pay versus what it should be. If movie theaters had kept up with the times, or at least it seems like they have actually, the movie theater price of a ticket has kept up with the actual rate of pay that we should be, like where we should be getting paid is where movie theater tickets have kept up since the 70s or the 60s.
But it's not viewed that way.
But it's not viewed that way because we're not getting that money, as far as getting paid. But the movie prices are consecutively going up every year, more and more. But nothing's changing about the experience for the most part. I mean, this is what's changed since we got 3D back a second time. We had IMAX theater.
IMAX. There's dine-in theaters now becoming a trend, right? Again, these are things that were there to begin with and died out for a minute and then came back. Because if you look at the original movie theater design, the original movie theater was 4D. Like it was a 4D design. It was the original movie theater was built off of old school theaters. So you had theater players. So imagine an experience where you got people actually performing in front of you, and they used to create their special effects.
So if you were watching these people walk through a graveyard, then they would have they would build.
They'd have a Foley box that would do
Yeah,
people in that box doing those sound effects. Live.
Yeah, they'd have people under your seat, rattling your seats for you, and you know what I'm saying. Like we're actually catching up with technology from the original idea of the movie theater. Like movie theaters went dumb for a second. Mm-hmm. They started smarter than they were, and then they went dumb, and then we got back to it. Now with this whole new 4D thing, like Premiere Theaters is over in Colonial had the D box, whatever it is, where the seat shit because of the shaking bullshit. That was the original movie theater design. The first movie theaters, they used to shake your seats, but they'd have somebody under your seat doing it, you know. And they would, like, if a wave came over, they'd have somebody with like water, throwing water, and you know what I'm saying, and you'd feel, oh, I hit by the wave, you know, that kind of thing.
Just like you're going to SeaWorld.
Yeah. So all the stuff they were doing in Universal Studios, like Terminator ride and all that stuff, they were doing in the original movie theaters. So movie theaters actually got dumber, and we paid more for them.
I see. So people are feeling kind of jaded right now, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I still think it's more. I don't know if what's funny is because I still think movie theaters are more our bag. Okay, so we're here, you know, we're late 70s is when the three of us were born. So I think movie theaters are still more our thing. Like, I don't think these younger generations, like Graven was saying, I don't think they really care about it as much. And for them, it's easier to be like, this is ridiculous. This costs too much. Even though we all agree, I think we still hold more of a love for the movie theater thing so much that we're not as quick to be like, they're charging us too much fucking money.
Yeah, it's a nostalgic thing.
Yeah. I mean, even though I remember the one time talking about Premiere Theater, I went with Sean that one time. And I don't know, I think it had been a while since you've been to a theater. And we walked in and he went to the concession stand. He was like, okay, I get a bottle of water. It was like $8. I was like, $8 for a bottle of water? He's like, nah, I'm good. Gee, yeah, it's ridiculous. Like, in Graven, you have a wife and 2 kids. You know what I'm saying? So on average, someone like yourself, how much does it cost you to go to a movie theater?
It costs me about $80 to go to a movie. That's if I'm going to an average theater.
Yeah, that's on the light side.
Average prices. If I'm looking at the discounts and the deals, that means I'm going on a Tuesday or a Sunday or a matinee for $5 a piece. That's $15, $20, depending on if both boys are going or not. And then I go to the concession stand and then I'm getting it about $40 just for, and that's for frugal. That's for a thing of popcorn for 2 of us and a thing of popcorn for another 2 of us and 4 drinks. So, and that's frugal. If we all want our own popcorn and we all want, something special, again, we're paying about $80 for one time for that. So
that's I mean, and again, like Sean said it. Yeah, the money they get comes from the concession stands. The theaters don't get paid from the box office. They actually lose money at the box office. So they're trying to gouge you as much as they can at the theater. So either way, I think this is obvious. This is an obvious thing that's going to happen. It doesn't matter what we do. At some point in time, the theater is going to slowly disappear. It's just whether or not this COVID thing is making it happen quicker than initially.
And I think Universal is I don't think they're wrong for doing it at all. I think that it's a free market enterprise. People, theaters need to be ready for this. They need to understand that's going to happen. And I don't think unless it's in a contract, which we don't have privy to see. Most of these independent production hubs, I think, have every right to see how they're distributing their product. And if the theater market outline's not working for them right now, they need to test a new market, and they have every right to do it. It's up to the theaters to also adapt and grow how their model is to make it enticing for not just theater goers, but for the production companies to stay there too. Now, mind you, that it is sometimes theaters are getting screwed really bad about the ticket sales and not getting a fair shake of the ticket sales. I think that's another problem too, because I think that theaters are providing a service, they're providing an experience, and I think that they're owed part of those ticket sales from those movies coming into their establishment. I think that's the bigger thing that's happened over the course of the years to be detrimental to theaters as a whole, because you're asking these theaters to provide an experience for the moviegoer and not taking any of the percentage of what's bringing them into the theater from that movie being played and asking them to get the scraps just because someone's going to potentially come in. That's too much. That's cutting into their overhead for them to even grow or flourish. So I think there needs to be a percentage process there. And I think that's where the production companies, theater companies, the movie companies have it. You know.
Yeah. And I mean, you have another perspective on this as well, Graven, because you were, worked in certain situations where you had to deal with movie theaters, with running movie festivals and stuff, and so it was interesting to have to deal with that on the inside, as far as how much it costs to rent out a theater, and how much you're basically promising these people you're going to put butts in the seats. And then the day of, wondering if you're actually going to get those butts in the seats. So it's interesting because you see movie theaters now starting to branch out and do these things like, hey, we'll rent out to anybody who wants to rent a movie theater. That's how much they need the money now. If you just decide, hey, I want to have a movie going experience with me and my friends, you can do that shit. You can go to the theater and say, I want to rent out one of your theaters for this amount of money. They'll tell you how much it's going to cost, but there was a time when the movie theater wouldn't even probably entertain that shit. They look at you like you're stupid. Like at the height of a movie experience was what, maybe the late 80s? Maybe early 90s, late 80s?
Definitely 86 to 92 was some of the years of a theater, I believe.
Yeah, that was like at the height, and that was probably the same height of the mall experience. Which is the whole other thing. The mall experience is dying. The movies, that's the other thing. The mall experience is pretty much on atrophy at this point. It's on life support.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's pretty much makes sense that the movie theater is dying because they're almost kind of hand in hand, or they have
kind of symbiotic relationship.
Yeah. And so, one of the malls we used to go to, what was it called again?
Fashion Square?
No, the other one. Over in iDrive.
Festival Bay?
Festival Bay.
Festival Bay,
Argonne. Yeah, that whole mall closed down. The only thing that stayed open was the movie theater. It's the only thing really living in that mall besides the whole outdoor bass. But we're in the South, so of course that's just gonna stay.
Well, I was gonna be devil's advocate on that. I'm glad you brought that up, right? Because you guys brought up some great points about how movie theaters have made it available, to rent the space for other uses, and also gave opportunities to local people to have film festivals and stuff like that. Raven, you ran that for a while as well. But my thing is, again, I'm gonna be devil's advocate. Are we being too presumptive, right? Like within the past, so I would like to see the numbers. We're going by, just what we observe as trends, which, you kind of see it, in real time. However, I thought of two things. I thought of the average teenager. That story hasn't changed. You still have teenagers who want to get out the house, right, away from their parents and stuff. Yeah. But then the second thing, I looked up, the highest grossing films, right? And just looking at the top 8, since 2015, there are 7 out of the 8 that are in the top list, and only one of them from, let's see, 1997, which is Titanic, but all the rest of them are, Avengers Endgame, Avatar, Avengers Again, Infinity War, Jurassic World, The Lion King, the most recent Lion King, right? The Avengers 2012, like that's pretty much the top 8. Are we being too presumptive? Maybe it's the quality of the product. People will come out to the theater, but maybe it depends on what's exciting them, right?
Well, yeah, no, true.
Maybe it's not a dying experience. Maybe because this shows me that people still are coming to the theater. They're setting records.
Yes, and I agree with you. What I think the difference that we have here is the people, like in a normal setup, in a normal situation, the movie theater experience is still viable right now, and at some points in the near future, it will eventually die off. I think what we're I guess throwing into the mix is the COVID thing, is this virus speeding up that process. Is now after the virus is gone and everything is quote unquote back to normal, are people going to just go right back to where they were, or are they going to be like
a little timid?
Yeah.
I feel like it's going to be cut down the middle 50-50 just as it gets started again. I think you're going to have people that are avid dealing with cabin fever, being shut in for so long, or
Yeah,
just want to get
that's a
out
thing.
and interact with people and want to enjoy that time with people.
Yeah.
And they're going to just rush. They're going to rush back to conventions, to theaters. Even some of the malls might see some uptick that are still open, just because people want to get out. They want to experience the theme parks are going to get hit hard. The other half of that are going to be people who are now in a different mindset, simply because they're aware. They know what's happened and how it's affected them, and they're going to be timid, they're going to be scared. You're going to have some extroverts becoming introverts. You're going to have some introverts becoming extroverts just because of subconsciously how this is all affecting people individually, based on what the news is doing, based on what interactions with their family is doing. It's a microcosm right now of everybody being affected some way. So I think it's going to affect not just the movie industry, it's going to affect a lot of industries right now when it all opens back up.
But I guess the other question is, if left to our own devices, okay, cool. Does it take just a little bit of time for us to get back into the swing of things? But we're not left to our own devices because we're talking about the movie theaters doing this. They're making they're throwing their hat into the VOD thing. They're testing the waters to see, hey, if we can cut out the middleman and just not go to the theaters, does it make us more money? And if they find out that it does, like dramatically, then who's to say they're not going to want to continue to push that, that theme, and then then it's going to be a tug of war.
Could we just agree though, the Trolls 2 is not the
Of
best
course, I mean, it
way
may
to run this example? I mean,
it may not. I mean, it may. I don't know. I mean, I don't give a fuck about it. But
what I'm saying is, it might be moot. It might be a moot point because they're running this experiment with Trolls 2.
Yeah.
But then again, families and
Yeah, families. I mean, this might be well, there you go. You just answered your own thing. Families right now being stuck in the house together.
Yeah,
this might be the best thing to do. This might be the fucking guy in the back of the room with the most brilliant idea going.
I just heard myself. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying? You got families stuck together. Like like they're expecting people.
They're testing it on a movie that is not 100% vested to do amazing at the box office.
So if they fail, they don't have a whole lot of shirt in the game.
Correct.
Basically, that's what it is too. Yeah, see, now it makes sense. And they're thinking, cool, we got all these families stuck at home with their kids. We'll throw Trolls in the ring. This is probably either. I think it's gonna do series numbers. I think it's gonna do series numbers.
I really think so.
I think it's gonna do series
What
numbers.
did the first one do? First one didn't kill like that, did it?
I don't know. Good question. What did the first one do?
It did very well, actually. It became a huge phenomenon at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised that it got so big that some groups and some musicians out there actually started utilizing some of the songs in there just to promote the movie because it was so underground big.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it made over 346 million worldwide. Opening weekend was 50 million.
I did not see that.
Opening weekend, and its budget was 125 million. So, and what's funny is it only opened in 4,000 theaters. So the average theater holds what,
Average theater holds up to 250 people. It's your major mid-size, unless you're dealing with IMAX. IMAX is going to hold about 328, maybe a little more.
So 300, let's just shits and giggles, say 350. 350 people times 4,000 theaters. Let's see.
350 times 4,000?
Yeah, 350 times 4,000
Make us do math right now?
Yeah.
1.4 million.
1.4 million. So now if they go VOD, what's the number that they give people they can actually reach?
They can reach everybody.
Yeah.
There's no filter anymore.
And if each person, and if each home pays $20 to see it.
Yeah.
Versus
you're actually coming out on top, right?
That's what I'm trying to say.
Because if you have a family of 5, I mean, Graven, you just said $80, right?
Yeah.
For a family of 4.
Family of 4.
Approximately.
Yeah. But that's
$4
not
for high def on VOD. You can watch it one time with everybody.
Yeah. And that's $80 for mostly concessions. You're only going to spend probably maybe $10 a person. So you might spend maybe $40 just for see the movie. Maybe, give or take. Mm-hmm. But when you look at that, okay, in his household, he spends $40 to go to the theater to see the movie versus $20 to see it on VOD. But the amount of people they're going to reach is more than the amount of people that are going to get up and go to the theater, or even the amount of people that have the ability to get up and go to the theater.
I'm going to stop criticizing trolls too now.
We also got to think about ease of use and ease of availability.
Yeah.
And that fact, the fact that once they rent it one time, little Tommy's going to want to watch it again in 2 days. And so they're going to hit it again. Parents are going to hit it again as a babysitting process.
Especially now, being stuck in the house. There's a chance they might rent it more than once.
Once you rent it, how long is it good for?
Hours.
Just 24 hours?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
some of them have 48-hour rentals, sometimes 72, depending on the type of movie. But with these new ones, it'll probably be only 24 hours.
Yeah, probably will be a 24 hours. So after 24 hours, you got to pay to see it.
I don't know. Maybe I'm holding on too tight, man. I mean, I do not want to see the new Top Gun movie just at home. I want to see that in the movie theater.
I know. I don't want to do that either. Because who does that benefit? Being only able to see it at home benefits who? The richest dude on the block with the biggest theater screen movie room. It don't benefit me sitting in my room on my fucking computer.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I'd rather go to the theater and see it, but it would be nice if it didn't cost so damn much.
That's true too.
That's true too. So I mean, that's the catch-22, man. It's like.
So what I'm getting from you guys is that movie theaters have made this bet in part. Like they've contributed to this now, right?
Yeah.
So why is it that all the other studios couldn't see this coming and take advantage of it, just like Universal?
I think they all saw it coming. I just think the plan was longer. They didn't see it happening anytime soon. I think they had they were playing the long game.
No, I'm talking about, that's true, but I'm talking about in this moment. You have these high-paid executives. Nobody else saw it to take advantage of this moment.
Take advantage of the moment like Universal did. I don't know. That's a good question because it's not like highbrow executives to be nice and play the honor code. You know what I'm saying?
Right. They don't worry about the theater owner's feelings.
Yeah, Universal's the only cutthroat. It's like, yeah, fuck y'all, we're gonna try this shit.
Right.
If you look at the big scheme of everything, Universal always seems to take the cutthroat move. They constantly try to do the move and shake matter with certain sensitive situations. They do it with their licensed properties. They do it with other things. But if you also step back outside a little further outside that grid, what Sean was talking about, bringing up the top 8 films that are happening. If you look at that, the majority of that's Disney. So Disney's not going to take any chances right now because they have a proven record that they can get people in the seats and they can put people there for these event movies. They know that already. And then they're going to clean up more when it goes to Disney Plus. So they're not worried about that. Universal is still having to deal with gateways to VOD. They don't have their own streaming platform they can dump into. They have to contract that in to somewhere like Netflix or Hulu or what have you. So if they release something, they're not going to release it later on video demands and build their own profit system. Disney does. So Disney can buy and sit back and say, you know what, we're going to wait and postpone it. That way people aren't anticipating anymore. They're going to go to the theater and watch it when they finally are able to, and then we'll dump it on Disney Plus for them to watch it again and pay for the subscriptions for that. So they'll do that too. So again, I don't have all the answers, I'm not an expert, but there's a pattern here. They're watching those situations to see, or they would have pulled, or DC would have put Wonder Woman on VOD, Black Widow would have went on VOD, all those things. They could have made money on those.
Well, okay, and I'll like you played devil's advocate before. I'll play devil's advocate. Who's to say that they're not in this together?
Sure.
Who's to say that they didn't sit around as these big companies and say, you know what, Universal's like, we'd really like to give this a try, and the other ones are going, well, okay, give it a try,
and tell us how it goes.
And then we'll see
monitor how it goes.
Yeah. Right. We'll see how it goes. Like he said, like Graydon said. Disney doesn't have to. They have all the ability to sit back and watch the shit happen, and in the end, they're not losing anything because they have their own streaming service. So they're in a position to go, you know what, give it a try. Because to them, if they probably weren't in that position, they'd probably have something to say to Universal, like, yo, what the fuck? Why are you messing up everybody's shit? But for them, it's like, you know what, that's a good idea. Why don't you go ahead and give it a try, test the water. We've never had this opportunity before. Tell us what happens. You know what I'm saying? We'll sit back, and if this works for you, then all bets are off at this point. You know,
it wouldn't be a hashtag podcast without a conspiracy theory. At least one.
I'm just saying, it makes sense. It makes fucking sense, man. I mean, when you think about it, the more we put all this information on the table, it's like, wait a second, that makes complete fucking sense. All right, but moving forward, so what some of you may or may not know, and what I like to call myself and most of my friends, legacy nerds. Like we're what you would call the original. We come from, we're more second generation. I guess first generation was like early, late '60s, early '70s. So we're more second generation nerds. But we most of us are big comic book fans, superhero fans, into that whole genre, into that whole thing. When it was actually not cool to be into that whole thing, which now it's like everybody wants to be involved in shit because everybody thinks it's cool. But that being said, one of the next things I want to talk about is this whole thing with Marvel that they're doing. They're some of their new comic books that they're coming out with, their new comic lines. Now, most people who are in the industry know about Marvel having some problems in their comic, their comic production. They're not having any problems right now in their movie production, but they're having some problems right now in their comic production, which a lot of people don't realize that. They have no clue. It seems like they're showing how much they're having problems in some of their newest additions to the comic world in their new their what they call their new woke comics line. I don't know, is that what it's called, the woke comics line? They might as well call it that, the woke comics line.
I was gonna say, is that what they officially named it?
they might as well call it that. And so they got a new line of comics now. Again, older comic heads know of the New Warriors. That was definitely one of my favorite comics when I was a kid. I know me and Graven talked about this as well. And what's the? I was trying to tell Sean about this earlier. What's the main dude's name again? Is it Thrasher? Night Thrasher. Did you pull up that picture? The guy with the black and the red? That's Night Thrasher. He's
I did it earlier.
Yeah, he's the main character from the New Warriors, and he was one of my favorite characters as a kid. Because he was a black guy too, so it was like, oh, cool. He's one of the first, besides Black Panther, he was one of the first black comic book people that I had seen as a kid. So, Night Thrasher's awesome, but
he looks like he has the perfect mask on for the Queen.
Yeah, the perfect the perfect non-cootie virus. Even though he goes and puts together a cootie team, like his team is like completely coronavirus mutants. Is what they're basically made from. They're made from C-19. But so the original comic book was called The New Warriors back in the day. When that came out, 90s? Mid-90s? Yeah. Awesome comic book. So now I guess they're trying to reboot it and bring a new group of characters into the new Warriors. And this whole new lineup of characters has been very cringeworthy, to say the least. So yeah, I mean, Graven has a big history in the comic world. He's been working in the comic world since he was a kid. He's worked as a graphic designer. He's published. He's done everything you can think of in the comic world. I come from just a straight comic book geek fandom and an artist. I've been an artist pretty much my whole life and started with comic books when I was a kid. Now Sean didn't collect comics, but he was always into the characters, especially certain characters. I mean, obviously his favorite character is Batman. So we all have. You
would call it die easy thing.
Yeah, die easy.
Not die hard. Die easy thing.
Well, yeah, I guess it depends on the conversation. I've seen you die hard on some shit. When it comes to Batman.
Yeah, that's true.
So that being said, you kind of know where we're at on this. But again, so we've had this conversation. I've talked to both of you a little bit about this, and I've just kind of brought Sean up to speed about this whole new team, and so I wanted to talk about this a little bit. What is the what's the computer guy's name again? Is it Screen Time?
Screen Time, yeah.
Screen Time, was it Screensaver? He looks like a really broke down Cyclops. And and they don't have, I don't think I haven't seen any like deep background bios of characters. Like, I haven't seen them put anything out because, from what I understand, his only power is he basically is able to control the internet without using a computer. Like, he's basically a walking Siri.
This is the official synopsis of Screen Time. A meme obsessed super teen whose brain became connected to the internet after becoming exposed to his grandfather's experimental internet gas. Now he can see augmented reality and real-time maps, instantly Google any fact. Does this make him effectively a genius? He sure acts like he does. That is the synopsis of Screen Time.
So he was exposed to his grandfather's internet gas. That sounds like his grandfather just sitting in the room farting. Like just his grandpa's just eating a lot of beans. It don't sound like anything special.
What does that even mean?
That's what I'm saying. His grandfather's internet gas. Come on, Graven. Like they couldn't even come up with something interesting. Internet gas.
Yeah, here's some more to that. To kind of add to it from, I think, the artist's perspective or the creator's perspective. I wanted to have team characters who felt as now as the New Warriors did in 1990. Explains Kibblesmith. The New Warriors have been zeitgeist characters from the beginning. You get edgy skateboarder Night Thrasher in the 90s, and the reality TV team in the 2000s. And now in 2020, we have New Warriors who have never grown up without the internet, and one character who appears to essentially live inside it. The word Screen Time is only ever used in a sort of restrictive sense. And because we're doing a story about teenage rebels and a lot of themes about teens fighting against labels that are put on them, so with Screen Time, we'd like the idea that this is his infinite screen time.
I'm sorry, I can't get over the fact that you said internet gas. Can I buy that somewhere? Like, can I search for that on Amazon? I just want some internet gas. I didn't know the internet had gas. Yeah, the internet is gassy. It's been gassy for a long time, and he was exposed to internet gas. And then what's even funnier is, so he has the ability to Google anything in his mind. He has access to all this information. So does that make him brilliant? Okay, so basically you're saying he has access to Wikipedia, but that doesn't mean that everything in Wikipedia is true. Yeah. So no, it doesn't make him brilliant. It makes him like your ex-girlfriend, a purveyor of all things that make no fucking sense at any given time.
Would that be extra challenging for the writer, though, to come up with scenarios that this guy's skills are useful?
It would definitely be interesting. It doesn't mean that they're gonna do a good job. I mean, it could be hard. It could make it hard for a good writer to find something that make him interesting, but it also could be lazy. It also could be just straight lazy writing, because what is he gonna do? Like, they're basically gonna use him like a Brainiac kind of character. Like, he's just gonna be the knowledge guy.
You could just call him Interface.
Yeah, they could have called him Interface. Yeah, that would have been better than Screen Time. They could have called him Interface. You know what I'm saying? Or fucking USB. Something. I mean, that all of it sounds better than Screen Time. But either way, even from what Graven just read about his character, it's like a limp noodle. It's like I honestly, just right now, I guarantee you, with the three of us, we could sit down and beef up his character bio and make him sound way more interesting than they made him sound with what they just gave us.
But again, what if we're behind the curve on this? What if he is interesting, right? One of the things, and again, you recommended this article, about the woke comic thing. What if, we're late to the party in terms of we're not being relatable right now? One of the things that stood out in the article to me was they're trying to attract new readers to comics. Like, you just opened up about how you guys are like second generation comics. You guys, I mean, your knowledge of comics is just so much in depth, right? But that's not what they're going for.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to attract a whole new class of comic readers. And what if we're slow now on this, and we're taking that for granted?
Well, like I talked to Graven about this earlier. My perspective of this is the way to bring in new generations of comic readers is by going through your legacy customers. Like you don't go outside the group to bring people in. You go to the group and use the group to bring people in. You know what I'm saying? Like because it's like you spent 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years building a group of loyal customers. And then when it's time to re-up, you decide to push them aside and then hope that you're going to get new customers. You're going to throw your fish wand and throw your fishing wand. Throw your fishing rod into the open waters and hope you get new people. But now that you've excommunicated your old people, they're not going to stick around for you anymore. So now you're starting from scratch right now. You know, instead of going, you know what? And this is what they tried to do, to be honest, because they're using the old new warriors to bring in the new ones.
I got it.
So they're trying to get us to like this first by bringing the old ones in. You know what I'm saying? But the problem is the line between the original and the new is so like it's a Grand Canyon.
Absolutely.
Of creativity between the two. Like it doesn't fit at all. It doesn't make any sense. I don't even see how the old new warriors would even fuck with these people. Like,
well, maybe that's not the point though. Like, you know, I have to ask: are we being too emotionally connected to this? Right?
Yeah.
Because the guy in the article, he was offended, and that came across. He was like, "Oh, they're just spitting in our face," and you know, I'm paraphrasing, but he's pretty much like they're insulting us, and well, they're not targeting you, dude. Like, you know, they're going past you guys. You already have your established, superhero class or whatever, and now they're going after a new demographic. Is that so wrong? Now, I'm more on your side.
Yeah.
But again, I'm just posing the question.
No,
right? Is emotion playing too much a part?
It can. You know, at the same time, I feel just from the past 10 years that history shows that the people they're trying to reach don't care about the product they're producing. You know, the groups that they're trying to get to be involved in this genre are not buying comic books.
That's a great point.
You
That's a great point. That's the whole, you know, get woke, go broke thing that everybody's like espousing.
And
right? They tailor these movies differently that have been established, you know, universes, so to speak, and then the box office sales don't read that out. Yeah,
because the people they're not gonna go out of there's a specific group of people that go out of their way to buy comic books, to store them. I mean, Graven has tons of comic books. It's not just about reading them. Now he has to store them. You know what I'm saying? You gotta put them in boxes. You gotta take care of them. You gotta make sure they don't destroy. I mean, there's a thing that if you don't have that, you're not gonna get involved in this. Not everybody who goes to the theaters cares to be a collector. Part of being a comic book lover is you're a collector. And I think the group of people that they're trying to reach are not collectors. Like Graven's, your son Xander, he's 16 now, he's about to be 16. When you were his age, how much of a collector mentality did you have versus where he is right now?
I had an extreme collector mentality. I was buying Wizard magazine every month that came out so I could keep in touch with the price guides on what was going on, but I also was there for the stories. At that time, it really hadn't moved too crazy into the numbering and event books at that time. They still were doing them, but not as much as they are now. And I was really big into indies. I wasn't into Marvel and DC by that time. By that time, I felt like I graduated to where I could be involved with the indies, which, you know, a lot of people say, well, that's the cold low end, but the indies had so much more freedom. They had so much more stuff they were doing. There was so many more experimental storylines happening where we couldn't get that in Marvel and DC. And honestly, it's the same thing with Devil's Advocate. People are looking at this is that indie infusion into Marvel. They're just trying to experiment to some degree, see what they're going to get, who they're going to grab with it. But I think there's a lot of different ways they could be doing that in addition to what they're trying to do with this. I was a heavy collector back then.
Yeah, I think that's a different time. the thing that is comic books. I don't think, and I've had the conversation with Graven before as well. They're on their way out because the mentality of being a collector of things, I don't think that exists anymore. I don't think people are collectors like that anymore. They don't have that mindset to collect and hoard something. And, so they don't have that. Like, young kids don't really do that much anymore. The only thing they collect, if they collect anything, is video games. But then that shit goes out of style quick. Before you know it, it's like, collecting dust on the desk somewhere. They don't care. They move on so quick. Yeah. So I think that's the problem. Is like you're taking something that has a whole mindset behind it and trying to shop it to someone that doesn't buy into that mindset. If you hand this to the right person, they'll go, man, this is really cool. I like what they're trying to do. Do you think that you're gonna go spend money and buy a comic book? Like, would you go to the comic book store every week or every 2 weeks to buy the new one, the next one, and the next one? No, not really. But I think it's cool though. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like,
you know who I thought of?
Who?
I thought of my brother.
Okay.
And the reason is because I consider he's a millennial,
mm-hmm.
and he is very much vested into the woke culture, like his philosophy and everything like that. He's not necessarily a comic book lover,
mm-hmm.
but he is a nerd on some level, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that as a compliment.
Yeah, of course. It's always a compliment.
My whole thing is, when you guys were originally getting into comics, they served a purpose, right? Yeah. And I remember you telling me a story about how, and for the sake of sounding cheesy, how inspired you
mm-hmm.
are when you read these comics, and early when I was into some of the older comics or whatever, I was inspired, and it was relatable to me because I saw myself in that vein. I wanted to be the Dark Knight.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're reformatting these characters, right, to sort of be relatable to another generation. And what if that's the hook that was the same as the hook for us? Like, the hook for us was, this guy, he's impervious to a certain point. He's a flawed superhero, but, he has these superpowers, and he's strong, and he has super speed, and, he could fly around the earth in, 0.2 seconds, whatever the case is. Maybe that's not the hook. What is inspiring to these younger generations is not going to be inspiring to us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, again, are we missing the ball here on that?
No, because what's inspiring to the younger generation is not in comic books. Like, if you want to sell these characters, do it in the video games, or do it online, or do it in animation. You know what I'm saying? Like, if Marvel wanted to use these characters, they should have created them and put them in the next Spider-Man, animated movie. You know what I'm saying? And then the people that they're trying to reach would have found them, because the people that they're trying to reach are not looking for them here. They're not
Mm-hmm.
They don't. The people that they're trying to reach don't even go to comic book stores.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Right. So how are they even going to see these characters? They don't even know where these characters exist. You know what I'm saying? They don't go. You're not going to find them sweating around the comic book aisle looking for a comic book. Where's the new X-Men? That's not them. You'll find them.
So they're not even marketing?
No.
These new characters?
No, they're not marketing them in a way that's going to reach the people that they want to reach.
Gotcha.
Like, what are they doing any different than they were doing before? Unless you, Graven, you know something about some new marketing that I don't know about, but, I don't see them.
I think bookstores alone are antiquated, and I think that's also affecting the enticement of people buying books. I think the only thing that's actually effectively infused the comic industry with any more push is because of the movies.
Yeah.
And the movie helped kind of resurge a lot of the people's interest and brought new people in and new kids into certain characters they didn't know about because of approvals from their parents watching these movies and seeing what type of characters are out there.
That's a good point.
There's still need for it. You still have people interested in it. But as far as getting people in those stores that are on this type of social understanding, it's hard because they're collecting experiences. They're not collecting books and games and things like that in that same way. They're collecting moments. They're collecting views. They're collecting likes. They're collecting, in-game purchases. This is what that social construct is. Now, do I feel there's a percentage of people out there that this market's going to hit that are going to go read these books? Absolutely, and there should be definitely a voice for them to be able to see these characters, because at that point it's going to relate to them and they're going to have something to read. Do I think that they could have done it a different way? Absolutely. I always felt like Marvel and DC lost the opportunity to really gain focus groups on different social structures of what they could do. And for example, on that, it's like Marvel could just produce another imprint, another company imprint that specializes in this type of age bracket as well as social understanding, and create a whole new universe that just is separate from Marvel completely. A different branding imprint, you know what I mean? Like you have Image, you have Dark Horse, you have Oni, you have all these different companies, Valiant, what have you. Back in the day, DC created a company called Vertigo, and Vertigo was an imprint that was associated with DC Comics, and it was more pushed to adult, mature, intriguing type stories, and they could test the market and say, let's create Sandman for Vertigo, let's create Metropolitan, let's create Concrete, and all these different ones that were not hitting the kids like me that were really young. This is a whole older generation ahead of me that were reading these books, and then I got the trickle down of that, but they can test it. Marvel hasn't done that. They haven't created any type of imprints since way back when, the Max line, and it was a more adult, full go type thing. They're not doing those type of things. They could do that. They could also do something where they create imprints that allow the older artists, the older guard that used to create Golden Age, Silver Age books to create their own new lines of content that could get older adult collectors like me back on the ball too. So they could, I feel they could relatively do that on a low cost level now that digital is so much available. Roll them up digitally. Roll these books. Don't put them in the stores. Put them out online for the kids.
They can do it strictly online.
And that's that. Now, if those characters work and they start seeing an uptick of people, of kids and millennials and young teens and young adults buying these characters because they're actually interested in them now, then slowly introduce them into Marvel's universe. And you start getting the quality characters, the core characters start building that brand more. And it kind of just rolls in on itself. And if it doesn't work, oh well, focus is done. You got a few books for a few years, didn't work, those characters are still part of canon, but there you go, I mean, it's a way of doing it. Again, it sounds like you're separating and segregating things.
Yeah, no.
It's kind of an influx, a small influx. I'm saying bring these characters
into Marvel. That's the way you should do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think when it boils down to it, at the end of it all, it's just like, and we won't get too deep into that, but it's like the music industry, like we always say about the music industry. It's one thing to be relatable. It's another thing where it's obvious that the level of creativity is not as much as it was before. It's not so much about, oh, well, you just don't like this guy because he's not relatable. No, I don't like him because there's no creativity there anymore. Now you're just getting paid to just be lazy, you know what I'm saying, and just throw anything at the wall.
Very formulaic.
And it even shows when you were talking about earlier about how when you read that article, you know how many articles I read on the internet that are grammatically screwed up? And that's becoming more and more lately. And we've talked about this before a while ago. Well, how is it that this is a thing now? Like, there was a time when there's no way you could be a reporter or somebody writing something and your grammar's not right. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was so much more prestigious. Now anyone, I could sign up to be a reporter for that website with that article that we saw. All I'd have to do is show them that I have a couple writing credits, that I've done some writing, and then if they like what I've done, they put me on as one of their writers. I don't have to have a degree. I don't have to have any of that. I just have to have a passion for whatever that site is talking about. And then, so now it's like it's watering down. Everything is becoming so watered down. And I think the creative process of these characters shows me the level of watered downness that's going on with the creative process. And then even what Graham was saying about putting together the extra, focus, we did this. Marvel did this. DC did this before. Why are they not doing it now? Because they're hiring new people coming into the industry that are not brainiacs anymore. Like, I feel like for some reason, it's like the society is getting dumber when it comes to their creativity. It's like the people that are coming in. I recently graduated Full Sail. I told Sean this the other day. Listen, I love Full Sail. I think Full Sail is great. I met a lot of creative and awesome people there, but I also met a lot of interesting people that were on their way to graduating that creativity levels were the level of a 12-year-old. You know what I'm saying? And they're graduating college and going to go into the industry and going to start being someone that's going to get paid for their creativity. And their level of creativity was about where I was when I was 12. And that to me is interesting. I'm like, well, how is it possible that your character building sucks, the character names suck, the like everything about your thought of the character. Why does this character exist? Why does he look this way? What's the name mean? It has to have a meaning. You just don't slap a name on him. You know what I'm saying? Have it mean something more than just his screen time, just because he likes computers. You know, I mean, you know, and then, I mean, don't even get me started with Trailblazer, because obviously she's a female and she's trailing and blazing and she's doing things that other women can't do. I mean, I mean, and then what was the Dracula was B negative?
B negative, and then there's Safe Space and Snowflake.
Oh, we ain't even gonna talk about Safe Space and Snowflake. We're not even getting into Safe Space and Snowflake, man. Oh my god, that's a whole. I mean,
just the names by themselves, the lack of creativity with the names, it's pretty insulting.
It's
to a certain extent.
Seriously insulting, because everything is right on the nose. Everything they've done is right on the nose.
There's no subtlety.
There's no subtlety. There's no nuance. There's no nothing. It's all right on the nose. So I mean, that's just like it's lost all of its.
However, I mean, we talked about this earlier. There's no subtlety in Superman, Batman, Iron Man. There's no subtlety there either.
What I said was you have to have, if you can have a silly name, but then that means your character has to have a lot of juice and meat. He's got to be a meaty character. You can't have an awesome name and with a stupid character. You know what I'm saying? You can have a silly name where you're like, that name's kind of interesting. Tell me about the character. And then once you lay out the character, like, damn, that's pretty fucking dope. Right. The name, not so much, but damn, that's dope. You know what I'm saying? Like Graven, we were talking last night, like Sean was talking about, like He-Man, stupid name. I mean, it's really stupid. You know?
She-Ra.
Yeah, She-Ra. I mean, you know, well,
Wonder Woman.
She-Ra didn't work either, regardless, to be honest. That didn't work either way.
Cookie, cardboard, story, character creation. I mean, it was definitely just something to sell. Something that they thought, okay, we need to keep it simple for the kids.
Simple.
The kids be able to understand it, speak it, do
from
all
a young age.
stuff. So it's from a marketing standpoint in some regards. But as we get older and our brains mature, hopefully, and our ideas mature, we come up with some better stuff. But I think that's also another topic for another day. You know, how these names, how we come up with stuff, and how it stands the test of time, and how the writers try to create new content within these name narratives that are not really fitting for.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing. It's like even Thundercats. I mean, you think about it. I mean, it sounds cool, but it's really simple. It's a simple name, you know. So I mean, what it boils down to is these guys. You had a bunch of, which I think kind of this could honestly be the case. Back in the day, you had a lot of older guys working in the industry. Guys were in their 30s and stuff who had years of experience being writers and being creatives, who were forced into this comic book world or this cartoon world now because that was the only really good money at the time. So now they're stuck, well, now I gotta write for Thundercats. Silly ass name, but this writer is a phenomenal writer. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this guy's body of work is amazing. And the amount of meat and potatoes he put into the story of Thundercats is what made us like the name. You know, where the difference now is you got these kids who are 20, you know what I'm saying, who really don't have any life experience, have nothing to show for any of their creative work, really, and now they're getting to have all of the run of Marvel. They're having the run of the whole thing. So they're coming up with the stupid name and then not giving us anything on the back end with the characters.
Makes sense.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, you know, like I said, I mean, be negative. Great. All right. So yeah. So last thing I wanted to get into real quick, just because today is the day. Today is the day. The finale.
Season finale
of Star Trek Picard. It's coming on streaming tonight. Boy, oh boy, I'm like, my nipples are hard. Now, excuse me. Sean has yet to see the show. which is good for him because he's gonna get to binge watch the whole damn thing, which I'm kind of jealous about that, to be honest with you. But he knows about Star Trek for the most part. He's got a handle on Star Trek. One of the things I want to talk about is not only the show itself, but how we've had a conversation before about the trolls that are in the wings. It amazes me with a show that is so. Again, we talk about writers and creatives writing interesting content. The show that has such interesting content, such dope character building, such awesome premises, people are still shitting on the show. And they call themselves Trekkies or Star Trek fans,
or film critics,
or some of them film critics, and they're shitting on the show because it has nothing to do with the way Star Trek was originally created. It's different, and like you just said, obviously it's a new time. Things change. Maybe we're not, we're being emotional. We're holding on to something else, and we're not seeing what they're trying to do. Okay, maybe that's the case. Maybe these people are just being emotional. I think, honestly, I think they're trolls. Personally, I think they're a group of people who go online and specifically set out to try and fuck with a genre of people. Personally, that's my thought process. I don't think it's an emotional thing at all. I think some of the people that I've seen, and I'll name fucking names because some of these people piss me the fuck off, to be quite up honest with you. But I think some people I've seen do this specifically to be assholes. I don't think they're emotional about it anyway. Because another thing, some of them have actually given reasons why the show isn't where it should be. Like what I told you about that one person who will remain nameless, who was saying, that, this show is too political and it's too on the nose with its politics. And Star Trek was always political, and it always mirrored the times that we were living at. And that Star Trek Next Generation, just like the Star Trek the original series, and even Deep Space Nine for that matter.
It always represented a sort of counterculture too to what was going on in the world at the time. Listen, I think Henry Cavill will call them passionate, sir. Calling them trolls.
Yeah, Henry Cavill will call them passionate, right?
Not appreciate that, number one. Some of the criticism I've heard is twofold. It's what you said. It's too woke. It's too political. But the other thing is what we just finished talking about, which is the writing, the lack of subtlety, the fact that things are just bam, like just out there in your face, and there's no real good dialogue to set up some of the themes that they're trying to get at.
I'm gonna let Graven answer that. Do you believe that? What do you think? What he just said?
It's a hard onion to peel, man. Let's see here. Give me a bit more, Sean. What do you think, man? Give me some more of what you're thinking.
Well, it's not what Sean's thinking. He said this is what he's hearing.
Yeah, that's from what I've observed and listened to in other people's podcasts.
That they're saying negative about the show. That there's no subtlety to the writing. That the writing is not
like there's no good flow to the way certain events happen.
Yeah, I would honestly disagree. That's me tremendously because they're writing it in such a way that you have to think about it. You have to figure out what's going on. They're building layers upon layers in the story, and some of it's face value, but that's on purpose. It's done on purpose. To get somebody, agitated and frustrated because they want to know more, they want to figure it all out. As the show pans out, it gets to a point where if you're not paying attention to some of the stuff going on in the underlying situation, you're going to come up with your own narrative before you finish watching the show. And that's good because it diverts you from the truth. It allows you to have some experiences that you really want to see and be able to say, that's some aha moments. Because even the hard pressed that love the show and want to figure it all out and think they know it, I want to be surprised. I don't want to always get it right. If I'm getting it right, if I'm always on the nose with things, and that means it's poor writing to me. That's in my head. That means it's lazy writing to me. And that doesn't mean that I'm smarter than everybody else. I'm not. I'm still learning like everybody. But as a viewer, they need to understand where it's growing and what it's going to be doing. It can't stay in one narrative forever and not try to grow out of it. Now, mind you, devil's advocate, even going back to what we were talking about the New Warriors. conversation earlier, that can be said with that situation, but it's all on how you're executing. It's how you're putting it out there for people to see. It's a very well done show. It brings a lot of great characters in there. I think that's what Rick's wanting me to talk about in regards to that. I mean, it's not what people are giving it credit to in a bad way,
But what about? I've heard. I think this might be a valid criticism,
Sure.
which is that Picard is the only voice of morality now, which changes the whole dynamic from previous Star Trek series, right? Rather than having sort of like this universal lesson that comes together at the end of each episode, now Picard, and again, this is criticism I've heard, Picard is the only, you have different characters and different sections of races within, Star Trek that act completely out of character now from what they used to, and Picard is the only voice of reason and morality. That's the center of this. That's the center of the show.
Yeah, I got you. Well, I think that's. I don't think it's true.
Yeah,
And the reason why I don't think it's true is Picard has a sense of moral center, but it's also been corrupted over time, and he's at a point where he's having to realize and face some truths about what's happening in the universe and how it's affecting him, and how his choices in the past have affected what's happening now. And then on top of it, certain characters not acting as they should, so to speak. You're dealing with such a large universe of story, so many characters. So you're wanting me as a viewer to believe that over the course of eons of these stories on all these shows, that none of these characters can go anywhere negative. They can go nowhere dark. They just have to be happy 70s, 60s, 70s Star Trek forever. That's not going to happen. You can't write stories like that because they have to grow. And and I was telling Rick this a while ago, the reason that we have that poor Gene Roddenberry, which I love his premise of what he did with Star Trek. I love the fact that Star Trek was created for the things that he wanted. But back in those days, for television, they couldn't go that deep. They couldn't go that hard. They had to create content that was fit for filters and licensing and censors that had to be a certain way. So he did a great job to write strong stories, strong morals, get those across, and be able to encapsulate cool characters and cool universes, and have the ability to be that underlying tone that we all can get along. We all don't always need weapons, and that's good. Have that in the show. But I guarantee you, if there were no censors and certain things were available back in those days, that show would have been a lot different. It would have been a lot stronger in the way he could teach and how he could tell the stories and what narrative he could play. Now we have that. We're in a time where people can pretty much do good, solid amount of things on all spectrums, and people aren't liking that. They didn't like other shows either. They didn't like Next Generation. They didn't like Deep Space Nine. They didn't like a lot of those things. And all of a sudden, each one of them had a cult following after a while. I think this is just a shakeup of people not wanting a certain allotment of change, but then also wanting to hold on to some type of mysterious, imaginary idea. It's not hurting the show. If you're a big Star Trek fan, those morals and those integrities are still there. They're just pushing through at a harder pace, I feel anyway. And I could be wrong, but that's the way I feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, my thing, like Graven said, Picard is, to me, the original Star Trek, the captain was always the main focus of the moral compass. That was always the captain. Everybody around him would falter at times. Everybody around him would have moments where they lost their way, and then the captain would help bring them back. You know what I'm saying? The only difference with this show is it starts where the captain has kind of lost his way, but there's no one there to bring him back, and he has to figure out on his own how to come back to himself. But he does come back to himself, because there's moments in the show, even me and Graven talked about this, there's a moment in the show where I showed you that scene with I keep forgetting the guy's name, Eldar, the fighter, where I showed you that scene where he took that guy's head.
Yeah.
The very next scene after that, where they transported to the ship, Picard rips him a new asshole. You know, and they didn't have to put that in there. Picard rips him an asshole. He's like, what the you just believe it's cursed, but it's like, what did you do? You know, and he's like, I protected you. He's like, you don't kill people just because they have different ideas than you. You know what I'm saying? He's like, from now on, you don't kill unless I tell you to kill. You know what I'm saying? And because that was a line that you don't normally see in Star Trek, where people just get their heads chopped off and shit. You know what I'm saying? That's more fucking Game of Thrones. You know, so Picard was the compass that brought it back to what was Star Trek. You know, he is that character throughout the whole show. He will always bring it back to where Star Trek normally is. And you have these other people, because of what happened in the storyline, everybody in the universe is basically kind of lost right now.
Gotcha.
Because the Federation in itself has somewhat lost its way. And this is part of the thing that people have a problem with. The Federation couldn't lose its way. The Federation is omnipotent, and it could never do wrong. What do you mean it could never do wrong? Like, what kind of story is that? That's bland as hell. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody has a moment where they can do wrong or have a moment of loss or a moment of, oh man, I screwed that up. And the Federation is not infallible. Right? Or corruption. Right. And that's exactly part of this story. So that's part of the problem. You got these people who are trolling, who are saying, no, the Federation is always good and everything is always right and they don't make any bad decisions. Well, I've watched Star Trek, every episode of every show from the beginning to now, and they've even did that in the original shows. Even Star Trek The Next Generation had moments where the Federation made bad choices. So this is no different. Like, that's what I don't understand. What's the difference between this show now than Next Generation? The only biggest difference is it's just not put together exactly the same way.
Is it something about our natural nostalgia, right? We sort of fantasize things, or we fluff them up and you know, remembrance of them or whatever. You know, like we sugarcoat them.
We hold them to a higher pedestal or
in a sort of innocent way. And then when we see sort of like a darker version of that, we're like, no, this can't be. This is too real, right? Yeah. Is there something in the human psyche? Or is it just that we're holding on, or is it just people that are just completely like, they're not analyzing this right? Like, which one is it?
I mean, Can
you be so off if you've been a fan since childhood? Like, there's something there. There's something to that.
Yeah.
That's being missed.
I mean, you've seen the J.J. Abrams Star Treks, right? And you know, even if you didn't binge watch every original Star Trek show, you've seen the differences between the way these shows are. Would you, from seeing Next Generation or whatever, and then seeing J.J. Abrams, would you automatically say that the thing that makes those shows different is that Abrams' show is darker? Or would you say it just has more of an adventure feel to it?
I mean, there's a definite connective tissue. I think that J.J. Abrams took certain liberties that weren't in the other ones, for sure. But yeah, there's that sense of adventure, and there's a lot more action and stuff like that. I think J.J. Abrams was trying to modernize it, just like how they're trying to modernize Picard. But there is that connective tissue with all of them. Like, when you sit down and watch it, you still feel that.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily have a problem with you know that necessarily. You know, looking at things in its proper context. But again, everybody's biased in a way, and I do have certain things that, you know, I refuse to accept or watch. Right? It's like, for a good example, the latest Voltron on Netflix. Like, I'm so emotionally tied to the old Voltron that I couldn't accept that the new Voltron in its proper context. It was like, nah, this is not Voltron to me, right? So all of us have our biases, and that's why I'm asking. It's a broad philosophical question. Like, I mean, is there something to when we get emotionally tied to something, we fail to see it in its proper context?
I mean, the difference with
maybe that's driving all this.
The difference with what you're talking about as far as the biases are concerned is that you're recognizing your bias. I wish I can go online and see that with other people who downplay the show. It's not like they go, you know what, this Picard show is not really for me because I have such a love for the original Next Generation, and that's kind of more my style, you know. So it's not that this show is necessarily bad or good. It's just not my style. You know what I'm saying? So it's not, you know, that would be different than to say this show sucks and it's garbage and it doesn't know what it's doing and it makes no fucking sense because it doesn't follow the original script of the way Star Trek was meant to be. That's pretty much all I hear from everybody else. It makes no damn sense. Like, this show sucks. What are they talking about? You know, what are they doing? This is horrible. You know, why is it so dark? You know what I'm saying? It's like, is it really dark or is it just filmed differently? Because I don't see, honestly, I don't see anything about this new show other than that it's filmed differently, and the setup is different. It's not on a starship, which is one of the things we talk about. Deep Space Nine got a lot of hell for that show. When that show came out, they're like, "What the hell is this? Where's the starship? Why are we stuck on a fucking space station? What the hell is this nonsense?" You know what I'm saying? So Deep Space Nine got a lot of crap, and then when they started getting into the meat of the show and they realized it was good storytelling, eventually people came on. And that's the same thing now. The difference between then and now is we've talked about this, all of us. Unfortunately, the loudest voices in the rooms are always the negative voices. There's tons of people that love this show. I've come across lots of people online that love this show, but unfortunately the ones that are the trolls that want to not like this show are the ones that are speaking the loudest, and then, the sheep follow. The weak-minded sheep follow. That's unfortunate, but it's the truth. So, I mean, I don't see anything about the show that's negative. I don't even see it being dark. Like, do you really look at the show, Graven, and see it as dark? Like, is it, is it weighty to you in a negative kind of, like, oh, I feel so moody?
I don't think it's negative. I just think it draws on deeper emotions, deeper emotional issues for people. I think that's what it is. I think that's a weird thing too. I'm working through trying to understand in certain shows and things that are created nowadays. What's too deep? What's dark? Is deep dark? Is being deep and emotionally invested in something make it a dark film or a dark show?
Good question.
Is that the problem? Is that the narrative people are utilizing to help explain how they feel?
Yeah.
Or is it just construed? Is it not the proper term to be using? It's just an easy term. I don't know. But with this story, it's as deep as it can go based on the amount of episodes per season and where they're at right now. They're trying to ramp up a certain thing to make sure that it kind of goes and people really want to watch it. But the same aspect, I've seen dark. I've watched plenty of films in my life. I've watched plenty of horror films in my life. I've seen dark content. I've seen exorbitant amount of content that dark doesn't even categorize it properly. So this isn't dark. This is just something that's deeply invested drama. Something that forces you to look at it and emotionally care at you and to figure out what you would do if you were in the same situation. And I don't think certain people can handle that nowadays. And I'm not saying that it's a bad thing that they can. I just think that there's a certain type of construct of human now that has a different viewpoint than we do about how life affects them. And they're trying to find the best words to accommodate how they feel about it. And unfortunately, those words are easy, and they're not always the best ones. So that's where I think we get a lot of these issues from.
It seems like that's the ongoing theme of this podcast today, right? Is like there's a different brain that a consumer brain in entertainment right now.
Yeah.
And I guess we've been trying to hack at that and figure out what's making that tick.
Perfect way, yeah. Different consumer brain, yeah. That's perfect. I mean, in all of that, what you said very makes sense, and because we where me and Sean live right now, we had a roommate that used to live here.
You consider him a millennial, or he was younger?
I think he was younger than millennial, but
Generation Z.
Is it Generation Z?
Is it Z
or is it Y? No, I think it's Y. But he actually made a comment. What movie was it?
I can't.
It was what movie was it, man? Like he said, it was a movie franchise. He said he didn't like because it made him think too much.
Yeah.
Was it
things that he said.
Was it Jordan Peele's movie? Because this kid was into horror.
Yeah, he was a horror.
He was a horror geek, and he said he didn't like.
Was it Get Out?
I think it was Get Out.
It was Get Out.
It was Get Out.
It was Get Out.
And he didn't like Get Out because he literally sat here and said, "I don't like it because it makes me think too much, and I don't want to think."
Yeah, I think that anyone from birth date 1995 to the 2012 area is iGen or Generation Z.
Z, right.
And then anyone 2013 born or birth into 2025 is Gene Alpha. Is the new one. So anybody who's 25 and under is Gen Z.
Yeah, I think he's Gen Z.
Or iGen. So
he was definitely Gen Z.
Yeah. So, I think it fits the moral or what you were saying is I don't think the average critique or movie pundit or whatever you want to call it. I don't think they like the idea of having to think about what they're consuming mentally, and they don't like the idea of feeling like someone's trying to teach them something. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't like the moment they feel like someone's trying to teach them something, they feel invaded. They feel like, oh, well, you're trying to say that I'm an idiot, that you have to teach me something. You know what I'm saying? I don't want your teaching. I just want you to entertain me. I don't want you to give me anything that has to teach me anything. I don't want no moral of the story. I don't want no anything where I learn something at the end. I don't want to come out this movie theater feeling like, man, I'm a different person. I just want to be entertained on a mindless level. And that's it. Like, I don't want no fucking thought process happening. And anything that has that, like Graven was saying, is either looked at as dark or it's looked at as woke. So.
I mean, yeah. Don't get me wrong. I don't mind. I mean, I know the term now has become kind of satire with the term woke, but I think that the true auspiciousness of woke is just to be informed, to be enlightened of information. I mean, that's really. I don't have a problem with that. I like to seek information and be enlightened with new things too. That's the whole greatness about it. But I think that it's taken a wrong connotation going forward.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, unfortunately, it's taken on a pejorative term.
Yeah.
With a certain sect of people who consider themselves critics. But yeah, I agree with you, Graven. I definitely agree with you. It should stand the test of time as being aware of what the social narratives are around that time, what the social temperature is.
And that's never been a problem before, but now the moment you include anything like that in your project, you're being sold something. Like, they feel like they're being sold to or pandered to. And it's like, I'm just relating you to something. But no, I don't want to be related to. I want mindless information or mindless entertainment. And that shows with a lot of stuff that we see now. Their cartoons don't look like ours when we were kids. Everything is so much more mindless. It's just pure, I just want to entertain you. Yeah, it's meant to be consumed easy and quick. And that's it. So, yeah, I mean, you talk about trying to hack the consumer mindset today. I think we didn't do so bad, to be honest with you. Now that I think about it, I mean, not bad at all. Somebody need to pay us for this shit. But anyway, all right. So we're gonna end it there for now. I want to thank my guests, my round table here. Raven Wolf and Sean Anthony here. And they will be back. We will have them back on. We'll definitely hear these guys again soon. So, and I also want to thank the audience, people that are listening. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening all the way through. Please leave comments below. Please talk to us. Tell us what you think about what we talked about. Tell us what you want to hear, what you want to talk about, us to talk about going forward. Any comments and all that stuff is great. Continue the conversation. We love conversating. So let's talk more about all these things. And we will come back and do some more awesome podcasting in very soon here in the near future. So thank you guys for listening, and we're going to tune out, and we will see you next time.